Welcome back, I'm Tedward, and welcome to the 2023 Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid. And while I've got it here, it would be wild for me not to compare it against the 2022 Toyota Rav4 Prime that we have in the driveway. These are the two big competitors for the PHEV SUV market, although they are quite different. Both all-wheel drive, this Outlander makes 248 horsepower but 332 pound-feet of torque against the Toyota's 302 horsepower. That Toyota will sprint to 60 in 5.7 seconds against this Mitsubishi's 6.5 second sprint. And this has a slightly bigger battery pack. This is a 20 kilowatt hour battery pack against the Toyota's 18.1 kilowatt hour battery pack. This will do 38 miles on pure electric energy against the Toyota's 42-mile range, and that Toyota will do closer to 600 miles between its gasoline and electric range, whereas this will do about 420. However, this is more available. It's a 3-row SUV. This is only a 5-seater, so you'll fit 7 in that Outlander, which may be convenient in a pinch for a lot of large families or if their kids have friends. Style-wise, it's dealer's choice, but availability-wise, I would wager it's easier to get one of these Mitsubishis at MSRP against that Rav4 Prime. That is harder to get on a list than it is to get a exclusive Porsche GT car. That costs $50,400 in 2022 MSRP. This is $50,800. So we can say that they're about the same. However, I doubt you're paying dealer markup on that Mitsubishi. You can pay 10 to 15 over on a Rav4 Prime if you get to the wrong spot. By now, you already appreciate the use case of a plug-in hybrid, because if you're able to charge it every night, overnight, you can pretty much get away with using zero fuel on your daily commute if it's within the range, if it's within this 38-mile electric range. However, charge time is critical, and if you're plugging into a 110 outlet at home, it can take a while. This is rated to charge from 0 to full in about 16 hours. However, when I plug it in, it's telling me like 22 hours. I don't know if I believe that, but that is disconcerting. That Rav4 Prime will charge in about 12 hours, and it's a smaller battery pack with a slightly larger range, which brings us to weight. This is about 4,600 to 4,700 pounds. I haven't gotten a real good lock on the proper curb weight, but somewhere in that realm. That Rav4 is about 4,300 pounds, so that weight could contribute to its greater range, or it just simply has lesser drivetrain loss. But this Outlander has another trick up its sleeve. When you spec out an SEL trim or higher, oh boy, sure, we know what that looks like, but this is a fast DC charging CHAdeMO adapter, which allows you to charge 0 to full or 0 to 80% in 38 minutes. That's no joke. So if you do have access to a CHAdeMO DC fast charger, man, oh man, you are going to be living in plug-in electric hybrid paradise. But if you're like me, you open the door to this thing and you are shocked by how premium looking this interior is. I have to say, I was pretty judgmental by the Mitsubishi badge, but once inside, you start to find a pretty comfortable, cushy cabin. This looks really good. Now, being the SEL variant of this, it gets heated seats. It also gets massage chairs on both sides up front, passenger and driver. That has heated and cooled seats, and I do think I would sacrifice the massage chairs for cooled seats, but hey, they need to differentiate somehow. Let's take a look in the back. Now, some of our storage capacity is taken away from this third row, and what's nice too, if you can get it around the third row seatbelts, is you still get a nice little tonneau cover to cover up anything that may be private or you don't want stolen out of the back. This is a very small rear seat. I, again, don't think that I would be able to fit in here, just small children, but the ability to have a third row is sometimes a complete deal maker or deal breaker for some. So if you need 7 seats, if you got little ones and you have to be able to put them in this thing, that's not going to do the job. This might. In the back, this is a pretty substantial feeling door, not heavy, but premium feeling, and I love the deviated stitching. That's the little stuff that makes this feel like a premium vehicle, and maybe you're more willing to pay that $50,000 upcharge over the base vehicles. And then in here, of course, we can fold down these rear seats, and you do get cup holders when you put this down. So I've got rear heated seats, some climate control, vents, same deal as the RAV4. One thing that's pretty clever, though, is that they didn't just put one little pocket back here. There's three. So you can put stuff here, you can put stuff here, you know, shove your phone in this little guy. That's not bad. Up front, this is where you start to feel like you are the captain, because this is a nice chair. I kind of dig sitting in this. And then you're greeted with a leather-wrapped steering wheel. Now, I do like the steering wheel in that Toyota better. Overall, I think I like the interior functionality of this, however, but the infotainment screen, some of this stuff just feels a little dated. However, I do have Apple CarPlay. That pretty much takes care of anything that I would complain about, because I don't care what the systems are like if I have Apple CarPlay. And this has a great top-down view of the car, great rear view camera. I think this rear view camera is higher resolution than that on the Toyota. And because this is the SEL, I also get this great panoramic sunroof. Look at that. That lets so much light in the cabin. It's beautiful. That also has the panoramic sunroof. The Mitsubishi gets a fully glass display. You can adjust what you'd like to look at if you want to look at the drive computer, navigation, music, all that good stuff. That RAV4 has a lot of analog gauges still in there, including one gauge that I don't like, which is the flippy power meter, which tells me where the power is coming from. Now, this has that. However, I'll show you what it looks like when we're in drive. Under EV power, you'll see that jump to life. And it's not just flipping all around on me like it is in the RAV4. So I do think this is a slightly more cohesive setup, despite the fact that it may not be better looking. Under here, oof, that's very heavy, and no hood struts, requires a hood prop. But there is our little 4-cylinder, kind of a barrel of snakes in here. It's a lot, but I respect the fact that this is a proper contender as a plug-in hybrid. It does look like you've got reasonable access to the 4-cylinder, so if you need to do plugs, wires, coils, etc., you just pop off that airbox and you'd probably be right in business. The style of the Outlander feels so much more Land Rover Discovery than anything else. It's got this big blunt nose. I feel like this is very Nissan Rogue in the hood, but what I kind of dig is the squared off edges of these windows. Watch, when we pop these up a little bit, check that out. Haven't seen that in a long time. That reminds me of the old 80s and 90s GM days. Gluing us to the road is a 255 section tire, front and rear, against the Toyota's 235. Now that might be to add a little more grip and distribute weight, because this is carrying a little bit extra. It is slightly larger as a vehicle than that RAV4 as well. But no doubt that's going to add a little extra rolling resistance, which may be a small contributing factor to its slightly lower range despite the bigger battery pack. But enough chit chat, let's go see how it drives. So when we unlock this Mitsubishi, I do like some of those little luxury touches, like the automatic folding mirrors. We've got the giant plug-in hybrid right here. I just wish this EV was a little smaller, because it makes it look like it's a full EV, but it is not. And check this out. You're probably not going to be able to see it. I'll get better footage of it in the dark, but it does show Mitsubishi Motors on the little puddle lights, which I think is just wonderful, a nice touch. Now, when you jump into this vehicle in comparison to the RAV4, I have to say it does feel a little more premium, which I was not expecting. I think it's this sort of like lower dash contrast in the stitching. The Toyota definitely feels like a Toyota, but let's find out if that's the case while you're driving it. To start it, we've got our power button here. And there we go. I've got wireless charging for my cell phone, and I definitely appreciate the buttons down here for the HVAC controls, because that's something that's so key to me, is to be able to not have to deal with a bunch of frustrating touch screens. Now you have this touch screen, however, you do still have some normal buttons. So if you want to get your camera, boom, there you go, your top-down view, your front and your rear, if you put it in reverse. Handles the power okay, and the chassis in any other situation would feel pretty darn good. It's just that against a RAV4 Prime, that does feel a generation newer. This suspension is not quite as soft or supple. It doesn't absorb quite the same way that the Toyota does. And one thing that's a big differentiator is the brake pedal feel. The brake pedal feel in this Outlander is a little mushy. However, before you go and say that that's a knock against it, I have been able to pull off the smoothest limo stops in this Outlander that I have in any car I've ever driven consistently. You can come to a complete stop in this vehicle, and it is alarmingly smooth, to the point where there is not even the slightest hint of whiplash when you actually hit 0 miles per hour. It's kind of incredible, and it starts to make you appreciate that just a little bit. So maybe the initial brake pedal feel isn't what you love, but you gotta remember, it's balancing regenerative braking with typical caliper on rotor braking. Over the bumps, it handles them. It's just a little crashier than the Toyota. And again, like in any other circumstance, you wouldn't really knock this car, but it's just the fact that you're spending 50 grand, and for the same 50 grand, you could get a vehicle that doesn't quite do that. But I will say that when I'm sitting here, I do feel like I'm in a more premium cabin. I think they've done such a great job in upholstering this in a way that makes me feel like I am somewhere special. And with no sleeves on, all the surfaces are nice and soft. There's no ugly, hard plastics. Everything you interact with and touch is really lovely. The steering wheel, perforated, is not my favorite. And I might be alone in that, because even Acura with the Integra Type S is using a perforated leather steering wheel. So maybe that does signify luxury, and I just am not in on that. For whatever reason. But I do think this is a nice wheel. I still prefer the Toyota wheel, but this is nice, and it's nice and thick. People like that. I'm not a huge fan. I want it to be a little thinner. I like a thinner wheel, but people seem to associate a big thick wheel with sportiness. Let's try a little launch under electric power only. The road noise is actually very low. This is a quiet cabin. Like I said, this is surprisingly luxurious, and good for Mitsubishi, honestly, because it's a brand that is often overlooked, and it used to be such a powerhouse. I mean, we think about what was coming out of Mitsubishi in the past. We had the Pajero Evolution, we had the Lancer Evolution, we had the 3000 GT, the Eclipse. I mean, there is some pretty incredible stuff coming out of there. And now it's mostly an SUV and crossover brand. That obviously makes sense if you want to make money, but it certainly doesn't have the cachet in motorsports that it used to carry in the Mitsubishi name. So watch this, we'll do a proper limo stop. I'm under regen braking, I'm probably not even engaging those calipers. Like perfect stop. Your passengers will be blown away by your driving skill. I don't think I've ever stopped a car as smoothly as this Mitsubishi Outlander. Let's get this out onto the highway. Wide open throttle in EV mode. up to highway speed pretty comfortably. Not fast, but comfortably. And then let's get our cruise control set up nice and comfy. You just hit this button right here. That actually, pathetically took me a long time to find because I was looking for like the typical cruise control on-off button. My apologies for right-hand pass, but I'm going 71 miles per hour. I think it's okay. I'm not going to cut across 2 lanes for that. They should probably just be in the right lane. But anyway, we're cruising here. Some road noise from the tires, but reasonably insulated. This is a nice place to be. And this is like the big point I want to make. I know I've been a bit critical of it because I'm comparing it against one of the big heavy hitter PHEVs in the American market. But that's what you have to do because we're looking at the same price point. And this Mitsubishi is not the penalty box that you would expect it to be or that you might expect it to be. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're a little more forgiving than I am. But I definitely was not expecting this to be as good as it is. They've done something really special here. Out here on the highway, it's cruising super comfortably, super quietly. I'm a happy camper, man. Like, it's in full EV mode. I'm not using any fuel right now. And if your commute is less than the range, or you've got the ability to charge at work and then drive home, you'll never use a drop of gas. And if you can charge at work, chances are you're not paying for it. So good on you, because then you can get all your energy for free. So even though the Toyota's chassis and handling seem marginally better, this is completely acceptable. And even though their MSRPs are identical, like I said, I think the dealer markups from the Toyotas kind of made this a more viable option, because although their MSRP might be identical, you probably aren't getting your RAV4 Prime at MSRP, or it's harder to find. Maybe you need a car today and you're not getting one. Well, maybe you can find one of these on the market and you might fall in love with this. Like I said, some of the infotainment stuff isn't my favorite, but again, I don't even really like the Toyota infotainment system. I think the Honda system is a lot better than those. So even if you don't like what's going on, it doesn't matter because you've got Apple CarPlay. It doesn't matter what's going on internally with the menus and the maps there. You'll never use them. You're going to put your iPhone in here. What was that? Oh, okay. I was like, is that a cow? It was a flag of sorts. Okay, strange. Sorry, getting distracted here. And I actually kind of dig the display here. It's informative. It's telling me everything I need to know, and it gets reasonable fuel economy. I've been averaging over the last 150 miles, 39.7 miles per gallon. Now, there's so many asterisks with these PHEVs because that's nearly meaningless. I could have driven back home every 40 miles and plugged in and been driving this on electric, or I could have run out of range on the electric batteries and driven it as just a hybrid vehicle. These are very frustrating vehicles to review when it comes to the numbers, because the numbers are ultra subjective, more subjective than even an electric vehicle. An electric vehicle, you kind of understand what the range is given the temperature and conditions. But with a plug-in hybrid, to say I did 400 miles and got this fuel economy, it's not always so cut and dry. It can be very difficult to kind of figure out, what does that mean? How did he do? You can cut that cake a million different ways. So the real quick breakdown comes down to, what do you need? This is a 7-seater, 3-row SUV. It's a small third row, but it's a third row nonetheless. Can't get that in the RAV4. That might be a deal breaker for a lot of folks. And despite the fact that on a 110 outlet, this charges maybe 3 or 4 hours slower, I think, than the RAV4, you have the opportunity for the Chatty Mode DC fast charging. That is not available on the RAV4. That's a pretty big deal. And if you can make that part of your life, if that's part of what you want out of your vehicle, well, man, oh man, does this start to come alive, because you can charge from 0 to 80% in 38 minutes. That's really quick. In fact, that means that you can do better fuel economy in this on a long trip, because you could stop by Electrify America stations in this and charge. You can't do that in a RAV4 Prime. But with this, if I went into Chipotle on my way down to New York or whatever, and I decided to stop at an Electrify America station, I can plug into one of those CHAdeMO chargers, and boom, I get my food and I get another 38 miles of range on electric. The brake pedal transition is not quite as good between regen and pads as it is in the Toyota, but that's to be expected. Toyota has had a long time to figure that out. Those Priuses have been around for a very long time. It's really tough to beat Toyota at the integration and seamless separation between regen braking and braking versus engine running versus electric motors. Like, they're really good at that, but I have to give Mitsubishi a lot of credit because this doesn't feel bad. In fact, even I think I was not impressed with the Taycan braking when I first got in it. This is probably better than that. I don't mean in outright performance of the brakes. I just mean in the regen to caliper engagement vibe. There is something to that. It does have one pedal driving, which thankfully, and very intelligently, they just put a button here. It's just a one pedal driving button. Now, it won't bring you to a complete halt, but when you lift off, you'll notice I am, getting all the regen, all the charge. And man, oh man, that gets you prepared for the full EV life, but it also just puts you in a position where you don't have to work as hard to drive the car. You don't have to lift. I know, how lazy am I? I don't want to lift my foot off the throttle, but it's true. It makes it so much easier. Hello, Rivian Amazon truck. Very cool. We like to see those. All right, let's put this into normal mode. And we can see how it's distributing power. Now it will allow me to enter, I forgot it was in one pedal driving. Now it will allow me to use that engine. So if I floor it, you're starting to engage the engine to help propel you along, which is nice. It's got some juice to it. No, it's not as fast as the RAV4 Prime, but who cares? What are we doing? Do we really need... All right, I like the power of it, but I'm just saying we don't need it to be that fast. It's okay. I'm really not checking the 0 to 60 times on my plug-in hybrid small SUVs. But since I've got, half a tank in the battery, it's going to do most of the work with the EV power. And then if I want, let's say I'm like, you know what, I really want to be charging this. I can tell the vehicle to charge that battery. So now it's running that engine, and it's running basically one of those motors as a generator to put energy into that battery. Now, obviously, that's going to negatively impact your fuel economy, but if you needed to do that and you're just like, I really want to arrive at my destination with a few miles on the clock with EV range, well, there you go. Maybe you need to make a quiet escape out of somewhere. But I just, whatever reason that is, I just like that you have the control to do that. These seats, man, I'm glad I've gotten to spend some time with these seats, because at first I liked them, then I didn't like them. Now I'm kind of coming around to them again. One of the things that I'm not a huge fan of, though, they're supportive. I've got good side bolstering. I'm nice and low in the cabin, actually. I think the seating position is pretty nice in this vehicle. I'm not a huge fan of the massage chairs, though. They're loud massagers, and they kind of just poke at you. They don't feel, massaging is a tough thing to do. Not everybody has that down, quite as down pat as the Germans, for example. But if you're going to implement it, it better be good. All right. Let's give it all the beans. Okay, Did you notice that they didn't do any of that simulated gear BS that a lot of CVTs love to do? No. This just let us sit way up top in the RPMs. They got nobody behind us, don't worry. Just floor it, watch. What a sound! What a sound! They didn't try to make you feel better about your acceleration by implementing some phony gear changes. If you need all the juice, sit up top. Just sit there. And it's doing that. And that's so cool. Good job, Mitsubishi. You're not pandering to the base and making a marketing decision based on how people feel comfortable with gear changes. No, there are no gears. Let it ride. You almost want to sing with it. So that's going to do it for me and the Outlander plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. There's a lot to love about this thing. It has some faults, it does, but it differentiates itself enough from the Toyota that for some people, this might be the more appropriate vehicle. This might have a better use case. Oh, I love that we're ending this behind a Rav4. Yes, it's not a Prime, but whatever, close enough. The fact that you've got this DC fast charger massaging chairs, maybe that's a thing you want. A slightly upscale that's not a good word, feeling cabin with this sort of, leather dash and all that stuff. There are a few things that, like, every single person who has seen this vehicle while I've had it has opened the door and said, wow, that's not what I expected. Myself included, I was blown away by the interior of this thing. Was not expecting it. And that goes to show how I was biased against Mitsubishi before it even showed up. And I've been shown that it's got the legs, man. This thing does the job. So, yes, I do still think that maybe like the more practical or easy buy is the Toyota. But if you're looking for a plug-in hybrid SUV, do not overlook this thing, because you may prefer this. There are people that are going to prefer this over the Toyota, and I don't want you to overlook it just because of a brand loyalty thing. If you've always owned Toyotas, it might be hard to go to a Mitsubishi dealership. Go to a Mitsubishi dealership. I would bet the Mitsubishi dealers are nicer than anywhere else because they want to sell their cars. You might even get a discount. I don't know. Now I'm just talking. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive. Do your homework. I hope I added a little bit of energy to the plug-in game, and maybe you think, hey, maybe I got to go check out that Outlander before I pull the trigger on something else. That's the purpose. Whatever you end up with. The thing is, don't prejudge. You got to drive. You got to sit in them. You got to experience a little bit before you go and make a real decision. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one. Take a listen to the massage seat in action.